Hello, my name is Seldra, and welcome to this episode of Thinking Out Loud. In this episode, we're going to cover shamans. Right now, from what I've seen, shamans are pretty underrepresented in, I don't have any hard statistics, but in the mana grind tournaments, in the constructed play that I've done, mind you, we'll show here, I'm only ranked 14. Anyway, we're going to look at some of the Shaman decks and go a little bit over the pros and cons of the Shaman decks. And as you can see, I have a whole bunch of decks made. Don't really need any of them. My Shaman deck is the Force Control deck, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But let's just jump right into making a Shaman deck. So the first thing we want to do when we make a Shaman deck is we want to remember what the Shaman passive is. The Shaman passive, for 2 mana, will put in one of 4 random totems. It'll either put in a 0-2 with taunt, a 0-2 that restores 1 health to all friendly minions at the end of every one of your turns, a 0-2 with +1 spell damage, or a 1-1. So it has a chance to be a paladin. It has a chance to give us a spell damage, which is absolutely ridiculous if you can see all this spell damage that we have. Like if I narrow my search by damage, we have a lot of spells that do damage as a shaman. So spell damage is really strong. The 0-2 with taunt's always nice because there's a lot of ways to buff in the game in general, but especially with one of the shaman signatures, which is Flame Tongue Totem. And the 1-1 is just a 1-1. One of the other things we got to realize about shamans is their unique mechanic, and the shaman's unique mechanic is overload. Whenever you cast a spell with overload, it reduces your mana pool by that much next turn. So if I want to play an Earth Elemental, it's a 7-8 for 5. That's quite a bit. However, on my next turn, I'm going to have access to 3 less mana crystals. So I really want to be careful, because if I say play a turn 5, or even a turn, let's say I play a turn 4 Earth Elemental with a coin, well that means that turn 5, I'm going to have 2 mana. And I might have to use, say, Forked Lightning and a Lightning Bolt that turn. Well, then that means that turn 6, I'm going to have 3 mana. So you have to be very careful with how you use your overloads. However, the upside to this is that it lets you really make a lot of plays roughly every other turn. You're going to be able to, say, turn 3, play your Flame Tongue Totem and an Earth Shock, right? And then turn 4, you might Fork Lightning, Lightning Bolt, and we'll just say Fork Lightning and 2 Lightning Bolts. And that means that turn 5, oh look, you suddenly have 1 mana. So, but even though you only have 1 mana on turn 5, you were just able to use a Fork Lightning and 2 Lightning Bolts to take out everything they have. So it's you really have to compare the cost of the cards versus what the cards are actually doing for you. As you can see, I actually own all of the Shaman cards, so that really shouldn't be an issue. One of the things I'm going to try and set forward is I'm going to try and stay away from using Alakir. In my main deck, my deck, I call it Force Control, and I'll have a link in the YouTube video. I have an Alakir and a Ysera. I use the Alakir in this deck. I swear by it. I wouldn't replace it with anything. I'm very happy with it. A lot of people are really unhappy with Alakir because he is a 3/5 as his base stats, and he has to try and make up for that by having Charge, Divine Shield, Taunt, and Wind Fury. And so if he gets Silence, he basically is a shitty version of Ascension Shieldmaster that costs a lot. But, and I'm not going to go too deep into this, but if you can play Alakir on, say, turn 10 and put 2 Rockbiter weapons on him, you just did 18 damage. Like, that's more than half their health pool, and I've played games like that. So, let's get into a Shaman deck. Oh, well, this one is still empty, isn't it? Okay, so one of the things that Shamans have that makes them really, really appealing, in my opinion, to newer players, is that their base spells, Earth Shock, Forked Lightning, and Lightning Bolt, they all cost 1. Now, mind you, Forked Lightning and Lightning Bolt technically cost 3 and 2, respectively, but they all cost 1 initially to cast, and all 3 of them are exceptionally adept at dealing with early game shenanigans of paladins, of rogues, and of warlocks. Another thing that I really am starting to swear by is the Rockbiter weapon, especially since we'll be running probably some Wind Fury later on in the deck. But Rockbiter weapon, it lets you, as you can use it, it says a friendly character, so that means that you can actually place it on your own, like on Thrall, and you can use Thrall and use his health pool and sort of get rid of something if it's a high priority target. I'm going to try and stay away from as many rares as I can so I can stick with the good ones. Ancestral Spirit is wonderful, especially if you combine it with some Death Rattle. Which, as you can see, I don't have a Sylvanas or a Cairn. But I've heard a lot of people getting really good results with Sylvanas and Cairn and Ancestral because they kill Cairn and it comes back as a 4/5, and then Bane comes back as a 4/5. So they eventually are going to end up having a lot of Cairn and Bane. But we're not going to run any of those shenanigans. So Stormforged Axe. If there was a common to craft for Shaman, it probably would be Stormforged Axe. Stormforged Axe can swing 3 times for 2, and that 2 can take out a grand amount of minions, especially now with the nerf to Shattered Sun Clerics, where Shattered Sun Clerics are a 3/2 now. So you're going to be able to take those out, and you can also take out Juggle or Knife Jugglers or Oozes, or just there's a lot of things that you can take out with the Stormforged Axe, and it's 2 mana, so you can drop it on turn 2. And so I'm really gonna recommend that. The next up would be Flame Tongue Totem. Because we're putting out so many passive totems and we have that option to put out passive totems, I definitely would recommend having a Flame Tongue or 2 in any Shaman deck. So, Farsight, it's a mythic. It's not a particularly good mythic. There are some situations where I would use it, some that I would not. Same with Wind Fury. Wind Fury has the potential to do a lot of really good things for you, but it's 2 mana for a buff card, and I don't really know. Now we're gonna put the Dust Devils in there because they're pretty easy to get to, and you can get some pretty cheesy stuff happening. I believe I'm sure that if you look hard enough, you'll be able to find games where a person has gone second and coined in a Dust Devil and played a Dust Devil. So they had 2 Dust Devils on turn 2, and in turn 2 they were swinging for 12. It means turn 3 they had swung for 24, and with a Rockbiter weapon in your hand, that means that you can actually win the game on turn 3, and I've seen the videos of it. So we're going to put at least one of them in there, just for that chance that you... Actually, we'll put both. Just for this, because we're trying to keep the cost down. Hex, swear by it, it's like a better polymorph. Instead of the minion being able to attack, it now has taunt, so you may want to make sure that you attack first. And this is where Shaman sort of gets not very nice to noobs. In my opinion, Feral Spirit and Lightning Storm are the strongest Shaman cards that you can have. But they're both rares, which puts them sort of out of reach. But I like all of these 3 cost Shaman cards. They all have extreme power spikes. Lightning Storm to clear the board, Feral Spirit to basically make it and have them run into those Feral Spirits to try or waste their removal on them. Since it spawns 2 of them, they have to put in quite a bit of removal, unless they're a hunter with multi-shot or something. A Lava Burst is pretty good targeted removal. I wouldn't use it if I could, I don't think I only use one of them in my main deck. But then Manatide Totem is like Nat Pangle with less health that's guaranteed for more mana. And that guaranteed extra card draw really puts the pressure on them, especially if you say turn 4 Feral Spirit into a turn 5 Manatide Totem, or you put a Manatide Totem down on turn 2 and they don't have anything that can kill it, and they play something that could kill it next turn on their turn 3, and your turn 3 you use a Feral Spirit to protect it. I will say that if you want to be successful as a Shaman, you pretty much are going to want to craft Feral Spirits. They're just too incredibly strong to not have on hand, making a Shaman deck. I'm sure that you could get around not having them, but I don't know why you would want to. They're just just great for their cost. They are technically 5, but it's so worth it. Okay, and then we have an Unbound Elemental. Because we're trying to keep the cost in this base deck down, we're going to run 2 of them. I could craft a second Doomhammer. I run 1 Doomhammer in my main deck. It's really great at pinging out minions. It's basically a Stormforged Axe on steroids. And if you give yourself Rockbiter weapon, you can actually swing for 10 with it on turn 6. And a lot of people don't see that coming. You're just a hero swinging for an extra 10. Bloodlust, we're going to run 2 of them because they're base. There are a lot of cheesy decks you can make with Bloodlust, where you just try and get a big army up, and then turn 5 drop Bloodlust and win, because it does give you a huge advantage. I'm adding it so that I can trade with my totems on a turn 5 push. And then we're also going to add the Fire Elementals. So, basically just going through Shaman cards, we have a pretty decent deck. We'll probably end up pulling some cards out before we finish this up. But if I were playing a Shaman, these are the cards I'd want to work from. And notice the only rare that I've decided to include is the Feral Spirit, because it's just too crazy to not have. For main board cards, really doesn't matter what you run. I would suggest running more mana expensive cards, so that some like Boulder Fist Ogres, or if you've got them, Argent Commanders, or just some these later cards. Stormwind Champions are great. And the reason for that is your early game is pretty much taken care of just by the Shaman base. The Shaman base will let you get to a late game. Now, what you do in the late game is completely up to you. Now, something that I've seen a lot of people do quite successfully, and we're going to get rid of the Dust Devils. We're going to put in Reckless Rocketeers. Now, Reckless Rocketeers are not Dust Devils, and I'm sure that you're aware of that. But Reckless Rocketeers make a great just 5 damage to their face, and it makes them, like I said, use their removal on it. Wind Fury Harpies are also great with the Flame Tongue and the Rockbiter, but we're not going to throw them in there. They're too easily distracted. We're actually going to use our Gelbin, because he's a 6/6 for 6, and most of his inventions are pretty freaking good. And it's not unfair for people to expect people to have a Gelbin, even though he is a legendary. He's not particularly overpowered. I think he's stronger than a Boulder Fist or a Frost Elemental or even an Archmage. But speaking of which, if there was another rare to craft as a player, I definitely would go with Azure Drakes. Azure Drakes are wonderful, but we won't use them because it's, like I said, we're going to try and keep this as basic as possible. We're going to throw in some Spellbreakers, or a Spellbreaker, yeah. What about spell damage? Spell damn. Okay. We don't really have a lot many options, do we? No. Huh. I guess I'll throw some Ogre Magi's in there. And then a Cobalt Geomancer. What's a big finisher for us? We'll put a Lord of the Arena in there. I don't know. We'll put something big. We'll put like a Core Hound. Put a Core Hound in there. Okay, and see, now that we've got some of these bigger minions in here, what we actually can do is we actually want to find room for Wind Furies and these Wind Speakers. So what we'll do is we'll drop one of our Bloodlusts and both of our Ogre Magi's actually. We'll put one Wind Speaker, and we'll put 2 Wind Furies. There you go. We're gonna call this our basic Shaman control deck. Yep. And like I said, we'll play some games with the Force control as well, but this will just be our basic Shaman control deck, just to sort of exhibit that you don't have to be rich to play Shamans. We'll go play a casual game, and I'll sort of, like I said, this is a thinking out loud, so I'll be thinking out loud as we go here. Perfect, so that means the gameplay is going to start at about 14:45. Okay, so we're playing a rogue. We know right away playing a rogue that we have to be wary of the early game. It's not the late game that we're worried about, it's the early game. So we're going to throw away one of the Feral Spirits because it's really hard to play both of them, and hopefully we'll get some earlier control. We've got a Fork Lightning. This is a perfect hand. Now if you'll notice, if I play Fork Lightning early, then I'm going to get myself in trouble. But I'm going first. So one of the things that Fork Lightning lets me do, it lets me just pass my first turn without a problem. And if he coins into play the ridiculous 2/2 that puts 2/1 into play, I can kill both of them. I can respond with a Fork Lightning. And if he doesn't, if he just plays, if he coins into play like a, I don't know, a Novice Engineer or something, I can use Stormforged Axe to get rid of it. If he does nothing, then I'll just simply use my my Totemic Call and just pass the turn.
So many options.
One of the things that I like about my particular playstyle is I'm always putting the thinking on them. I don't like to take very much of my own turn up when it comes to thinking. So like I said, we're just sort of waiting on him here. We'll go ahead and fire some Ballista. So he's just going to pass, and that's okay. Okay, and we got our Wrath of Air totem, which is our spell damage totem. In our hand, we've got Stormforged Axe, and our Feral Spirits, and our Forked Lightning, and our Rockbiter. And actually, we're going to play our Feral Spirits next turn, because he decided to use his entire second turn to pull out his hero power. So now, I'm in range of a Fan of Knives on that item, on that one still. But I'm going to protect it with the Feral Spirit, because spell power is huge in this deck. So now he's got to go through 6 damage, basically, to get to me. He can Fan of Knives this turn and still kill it, but he's going to be taking 4 damage next turn. Pretty much no matter what. If he plays a 2 health minion, I'm still at the point where I'd equip the Stormforged Axe. If he plays something that it has any special ability, I've got the Earthshock in my hand to deal with it. If he does nothing at all, I'll just give one of my Wolves Wind Fury and swing for 6 next turn. Because I'll have 2 mana available, because as you can see, my mana bar, I'm going to have 2 of my mana locked up. So even though most of my deck is early game, I'm still in a position where I'm forcing him to react to me. And like I said, ooh, I just drew Gelbin. I think I'll save that and I'll play another totem. Maybe I'll get the healing totem. Nope, I got a taunt totem. Okay, so next turn I'll have 5. And that means that I could actually swing for potentially 12 if I gave this guy Rockbiter and then Wind Fury and swung twice with him for 5. There you go. Okay, so he's going to play the deck guy, and that's fine. Let's see what else he does here. Looks like he's got maybe a head crack or Shiv. Shiv. He's going to Shiv it. That's okay. You know, one of the things that I'm not worried about is him having a Cold Blood on that rogue, and so I'm not going to actually attack that 2/1. There's not a reason for me to. You know what I mean? What I will do is I don't want to get myself overload so that I can play my Reckless Rocketeer or Gelbin next turn, depending. So I'm going to play Totemic Call. And then I'm actually going to shock that thing so I don't have to deal with it. And I'll just hit him for 4 again. So he's got a lot of cards in his hand. That's kind of worrisome for me. But I just got my healing totem, so him pinging down my wolves isn't going to be a big deal. Even if he has a Fan of Knives, he has to be able to do 2 damage. Unless he plays Spell Power or something first, I'm in a better position than he is. Okay, so he's going to backstab it and get rid of it. So I'm use my hero power to make him draw removal, or use some of his removal, and that's fine.
Yeah, beat it.
Okay, so he's going to deal 1 damage to me directly, and then deal 3 damage to me directly. Okay. Like I said, I have a Forked Lightning in my hand that is completely going to counter that, and so this turn, instead of playing my Reckless Rocketeer Gelbin, even though I can, I'm going to play Unbound Elemental, and I'm actually going to equip Stormforged Axe to buff Unbound Elemental, and then I'm going to Fork Lightning. And we're going to actually use I would almost never say early game, to swing at him with the Stormforge Axe, but we're at the point where 2 damage isn't going to be enough to remove most most minions from the game. So I really need to just I played it for the overload to buff my minion more than anything else. So what we're banking on right now is him not being able to do anything. And if he can't do anything here, he's going to be in a lot of trouble. Like he's going to die next turn because I've got 2 buffs here. Yeah, he loses. He just used the majority of his mana. He should have eviscerated probably the Unbound Elemental or something. See what he's got. Wow. Well played. If he would have used both of those on the Unbound Elemental, he could have not lost here, but he just actually attacked. Yeah. So I'm going to just buff the Unbound Elemental, right? Re-attack this turn. And then I'm going to give him Wind Fury, and I'm going to swing for 14 with just the Unbound Elemental. Mind you, I have 14 on the Unbound Elemental, and another 4 there, and then 2 here. So I was showing 20 damage at his face while being able to still control the entirety of the early game. And that's what Shaman control and the Shaman game is all about, is being able to control the early game and just having a really good late game. But unfortunately, that means that you need to be able to have late game cards. And unfortunately, good late game cards for most circumstances is going to be, you know, legendaries and stuff. So you're not that's where the money goes in the shaman control. So the best thing about it is that your early game is going to be the same once you get your shaman to basically level 10 and you get the basic cards. Okay, so I'm playing a Warlock. I don't want my Reckless Rocketeer. There's no reason to have it in my hand this early. The Unbound Elemental is good. We're going to keep the Unbound Elemental, because if I can wait till turn 3 before I have to play Forked Lightning, or turn 4, I can play Unbound and play Forked Lightning. Just one spell makes Unbound Elemental stronger than it needs to be. They're, you know, worth playing. So anyway, back to what I was saying. Your late game is what really improves, and your ability to transition successfully into it with the Mana Tide Totems and the Lava Burst and the Lightning Storm. Having those at your disposal make it so that you can live through like the Paladin and the Warlock Burst. Oh, I might not wait that long. If he's going to play Blood Imp and wow. Oh, he's going to play a Voidwalker. Okay, that's unfortunate. Unless I'll get a... No? Okay. Well, Forked Lightning is currently 2 damage to 2 random enemies. I will play, like I said, I'm just going to stick to the plan, play my Unbound Elemental next turn. And just keep rolling with it. Unbound Elementals are really good in the fact that they have 4 health base, so they're going to be able to be a little bit durable till I can get them buffed up. Yeah, there's my Wind Fury. So yeah, no, I will be okay. And so I'm hoping he doesn't play any more minions, so that I can just Fork Lightning and then use the Unbound to kill his Voidwalker. But we'll see what he does. Our hand is pretty good right now. We have the ability to Wind Fury if he does play something that's too big, so we can Fork Lightning into Wind Fury. Oh, he's going to use some removal? Yeah, he just used a Soulfire. Having him use a Soulfire with a full hand is really good for us. Because he just had to use 2 cards to get rid of 1, and my 1 card wasn't even planning. I wasn't even planning on it being too big of a threat for him. Okay, and then he just used a Sense Demon. So his 3rd turn, he put himself at a disadvantage, and I'm completely okay with that. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna play. Oh, nope, not that one. We're just gonna play our Unbound Elemental. And for now, that'll be enough. Next turn I can buff it quite a bit with Wind Fury and 2 Overload spells. So I could potentially hit him for 8 next turn. And one of the things I like about Warlocks is once you put damage into them, it really just removes their hero power. Because if they use their hero power too much, then they put themselves in a really bad spot. Okay, so we need to get rid of this ghoul. The ghoul is really important for us to not have to deal with. We're gonna have to draw a Stormforged axe. Okay. Okay, so let's play the Forked Lightning. Okay, so we're trying to think here. Here are our options. If we use Wind Fury, then we can buff our minion to a 4/6 and swing twice with it. But we don't have it. We might have to end up. If Forked Lightning doesn't hit the ghoul, then we lose our Unbound Elemental here. Or we can play the Stormforged Axe. And, oh man. Okay, so we're going to play the Forked Lightning first. No matter what we do, our entire strategy revolves around the Forked Lightning. Now, that was actually best case scenario. Because now we can Lightning Bolt that, right? And then give our guy Wind Fury. And then now he has to deal with Wind Fury. Wind Furied 4/5. So hopefully, he doesn't have, or he can't play Siphon Soul, and that's the Warlock's kill this card. He doesn't have a minion on the board to blow it up with Shadow Flame. He can Corruption it. Oh, he's going to play that. What? Okay. He just made a pretty grievous mistake.
Elements guide me. Job done.
See now, since he didn't attack the last turn, he didn't trade the Doom Guard for the Unbound Elemental. He isn't able to kill it this turn right away, so he has to use at least 2 cards, and the Doom Guard already cost him 2 cards. That means to deal with this Unbound Elemental, he has to spend 4 cards. And I always like to look at things in terms of card advantage, and that is huge card advantage on me. But if he can't kill it, he knows that I have 12 damage by itself showing. There he goes. And if he gets a weak demon, yeah, we'll just Fork Lightning it. We'll play Cobalt Geomancer and Fork Lightning it next turn. We'll put a Totem into play, right? And we'll swing for 2 again. And by being aggressive like this, since I have him down to 10 health, he absolutely cannot use his hero power. Even if he really needs to, unless he can get removal. He needs to have a Hellfire, but even playing a Hellfire is dangerous because I have 2 damage showing, and I'm a Shaman. I could have a Lava Burst or a Lightning Bolt in my hand. Why would you get yourself low enough that you could be executed? You know what I mean?
Hey, Jess?
Okay, and last turn he decided to Hero Power. So he's not actually trying to win, I don't think. I think that's good game. That's 2, 4, 2. And that's game. Again, not all these games are gonna go my way because of my opponent, but that one did. I'll say that one did. He made a few pretty large mistakes because he definitely should have taken out the card. But that's 2 games of the basic Shaman deck. I'm going to go over my other Shaman deck, and we'll sort of just wrap it up with that. I don't want to go too far over 30 minutes. Okay, so my Shaman deck, is my nice, big, expensive Shaman deck, what I like about it is it has a low-cost early game that I was talking about. And as you can see the same early game. You got the Earth Shocks, you've got the Forked Lightning, you've got the Lightning Bolt, and you've got the Rockbiter weapon and Stormforged axe to get rid of most early game threats. Then it's got the Feral Spirits backing that up to sort of protect some of the other cards. Now, some of those other cards that need protecting is a Manatide Totem. Manatide Totem is an extremely strong turn 2 or turn 3 draw, especially when they aren't playing an aggressive deck. Or even if they are, if you're being able to control them and get that Manatide Totem into play, it will force damage onto the totem off of you, because it's at least going to draw you one card. And if they don't react to it, it's going to put you at such an advantage that you're going to win, because the cards in this deck are extremely mana efficient. I'm running one Unbound Elemental, and that is, I play it. It is cost effective right off the bat, being a 2/4, but it also has a pretty big target on its head. They're going to want to put 4 damage into it, because they definitely don't want to let it get out of control with all the overload that I have in the deck. Then I have the Azure Drakes. They're great staple, turn 7-ish drops to use, and then turn 7, or turn 6 Drake into Earthshock or Drake into Forked Lightning, or just play them on turn 5 that put some pressure out. They draw you a card when they come into play. They give you 1 spell damage, and spell damage works out really well in this deck. I'm running 1 Earth Elemental, and I really own the tools about it. It's probably the last card, if I were trying to craft this deck, that I would make. It isn't that great. It has a huge overload cost. If they have a way to just remove 1 minion, they'll just blow it on that, and it costs 8 mana for a 7/8 basically with taunt. It's a good card. I don't know how great it is. I really, really, really like my Defender of Argus. Everyone loves Defender of Argus right now, especially in decks that can put out 0/2s all the time, make them 1/3s with taunt. Defender of Argus is great at just keeping stalling for a little while. Because once we start getting into the late game, we have Fire Elemental. And Fire Elemental is actually a basic card that I can't get enough of. It shoots a lightning bolt when it comes out. It does 3 damage when it comes into play. And you can use that as a removal, basically. The same way that in arenas, I like to use the... I forget what they're called. Stormpike Commandos in arenas. They are 4/2 that does 2 when it comes into play. Well, Fire Elementals are 6/5 that does 3, and they're just really good. Since they're basic, every Shaman deck should pretty much be running them under almost every circumstance. As I said earlier, I run a Doomhammer and an Alakir because they both have Wind Fury and I have Rockbiters. And so if you can combine either of them with a Wind Fury or with any sort of buffage, especially from a Rockbiter, but even from Ysera's Nightmare that she gives you, and I'll get into that in just a second, you get a lot of pressure. I have won quite a few games relatively recently, working my way down the rankings, using just Alakir's burst, because you can control, and being able to sort of feels like a 1-turn kill with charge felt like, or the charge hunter decks, because it's a 3/5 with Wind Fury, and every damage you can make it deal extra damage, it'll deal it twice a turn. We have a Flame Tongue Totem down when you play it. That's 10 damage on turn 8, turn 9, and so it really can swing the way the game works. And the upside to especially Alakir is that if he happens to get mind controlled, you can Earthshock him, and you just gave him a really, really shitty 3/5. Or you can hex him, and this deck has a lot of ways to deal with him, especially Lava Burst. And the last card is Ysera. A lot of people have tried to tell me, and I've seen other deck lists out here, these Shaman controlled deck lists, that use Malygos over Ysera. And the reason that I chose Ysera over Malygos is that of the dream cards that she can draw, I believe there are like 5 or 6 of them but one of them is called Dream, and it is a sap basically. It returns a target minion to its owner's hand. I believe it's only enemies only, but that isn't the point. It's a removal basically, and can get rid of a taunt minion or a particularly oppressive minion, and can buy me some time. And the other card that really is a big deal is Nightmare and Ysera Awakens. What Nightmare is it's a 0 cost card that gives a minion +5/+5, and then it dies. It's sort of like the Warlock spell that gives it +4/+4, except that it costs less and it doesn't die until your next turn. So if it has taunt like Alakir does, then you're good to go. But what it really has let me done is I've played my turn, 9/10 Ysera, and it drew me the Nightmare, and I had an Alakir in my hand, and I played Alakir and Nightmare and 2 Rock Biters on Alakir. And not, mind you, this isn't what happened. It was just Nightmare with a Flame Tongue Totem down. But Nightmare and 2 Rock Biters, so all 10 of your mana, means that your Alakir has 14 health or 14 attack, and it will swing for 28 if he's unobstructed with taunt. And so I found that the early game, as I showed in my other and the last deck, combined with the power of Alakir, Ysera, and the Doomhammer and the Drakes, really makes for a really strong game, really strong deck. That's all for this episode of Earthcast. My name is Seldra, and I'm gonna try and put the next one of these up by Friday. So, signing out, and when I come, I think next episode we're gonna work on probably more Shaman. I'll probably do some demos of Force Control. Anyway, if you like the video, go ahead and like and subscribe and all that other good stuff. Thank you for watching.